The Whispering Wind. The sun rose lazily over Nyahuru, painting the sky in hues of amber and gold. A gentle breeze rustled through the tall grass fields, carrying with it the faint laughter of children playing by the village edge. It was a morning like any other, yet an unshakable tension lingered, barely perceptible to the residents who had long grown accustomed to their lives of routine. Kofi stood at the threshold of his family's modest home, heart pounding as he watched the horizon. The smell of his mother's breakfast wafted through the door, yet his thoughts were far from the savory meal. Instead, they drifted to the village square where elders often gathered to unfurl the latest tales and dispense wisdom. Today, however, he felt drawn to a deeper mystery. "Are you coming?" Nia called, her voice bubbling with warmth as she tied her long braids behind her. Kofi turned to face her. She wore her customary bright floral dress that seemed to mirror her sunny disposition. "Yeah, just gathering my thoughts," he replied, a half-smile crossing his lips. Nia's presence always softened his worries, reminding him of the shared dreams they had fostered since childhood. Though their paths had diverged in purpose, their hearts had remained entangled. The pair made their way through the village, greeting friends and neighbors. Yet, Kofi couldn't shake the disquiet in his chest. The men around him appeared lackluster, their eyes dimmed as if vitality sucked from their very souls. Farmers struggled to tend their fields, their backs bent, and their hands shaking as they worked. It was not the harvest season, it was the comfortable routine of life that should have filled the air with excitement. As they arrived at the gathering grounds, the sight that met Kofi's eyes was unsettling. The villagers' usual animated discussions gave way to worried whispers. Mzee Ndungu, the village elder with age-lined skin and deep-set eyes, stood at the base of the old baobab tree, his voice steady yet burdened. Kofi felt a sense of urgency urge him closer. "Today we face an unusual stillness in spirit," Mzee Ndungu began, pacing the ground slowly. "Our men are losing their strength, physically and, more alarmingly, inwardly." The crowd murmured in agreement. Kofi felt Nia's hand squeeze his, amplifying his unease as he listened intently. "It is said that a beautiful woman has wandered into our midst, and with her presence, she casts a shadow that drains our men of their vigor." "Who is she?" someone called out from the crowd. "She calls herself Amina," Mzee Ndungu replied, his tone grave. "She arrived at dusk, weaving tales of lost families and purpose. Yet, there is something about her that feels otherworldly." A collective murmur spread through the gathering, and Kofi's heart raced. "I've heard of her," he exclaimed, catching the curious attention of his fellow villagers. "Tales of unmatched beauty and strange powers. They say she can make you feel things you didn't know existed. What are you suggesting?" Mzee Ndungu challenged. "That we welcome a sorceress into our village?" Kofi hesitated, feeling the weight of his words. The tension in the air crackled, thickening with concern and fear. "Perhaps we should seek her out, learn her intentions before we act hastily." The elders exchanged glances, weighing the choice. Kofi sensed the growing ripple of anxiety among the men, the embers of who they had been dimming as they succumbed to the shadows. To confront Amina was risky, but their vitality hung in the balance. As the meeting drifted to murmurs of indecision, Kofi caught a glimpse of the village path leading to the forest's edge, where silence replaced the joy of gathering. A burning resolve ignited within him. He turned to Nia, determination etched in his features. "I need to find her," he whispered, his conviction unwavering. "Alone?" Nia frowned, concern knitting her brow. "This is dangerous. We don't know what she's capable of." "Maybe it's dangerous to do nothing," Kofi replied, fierce intensity lighting his eyes. "The men are suffering, and I can't stand by while they wither. I have to know what we are up against." Nia nodded reluctantly, her own resolve solidifying as she stepped beside him. "I'm coming with you." The sun dipped lower in the sky as Kofi and Nia set off toward the enchanted forest, their spirits heavy with uncertainty, yet each step ignited by the promise of discovery. The path ahead twisted and turned like the roots of the baobab, hiding mysteries that could alter the very fabric of their lives. As they walked, the sounds of the village faded behind them, giving way to the symphony of the forest, a chorus of rustling leaves and distant birds. The air thickened with magic, a tingle on Kofi's skin that warned him they were stepping into the unknown. Suddenly, Nia paused, her brow creased with worry. "Kofi, what if she doesn't want to be found?" Then we'll forge our own destiny, Kofi declared, determination surging within him. We owe it to ourselves and the village to understand her. We must understand the power that's taking away the very essence of who we are. With every step deeper into the forest, the weight of their mission pressed heavier on their shoulders. Amina awaited them, a figure both beautiful and dangerous, embodying echoes of their past and their fight for the future. The wind whispered promises of truth as Kofi embraced his courage, ready to confront the woman who had unwittingly seized the virility of the men in Nyahuru. Meeting the Enchantress. The enchanted forest loomed before Kofi and Nia, its dense canopy casting shadows that danced over the time-worn path winding through the underbrush. As the sunlight struggled to pierce through the leaves, Kofi felt a rush of excitement and trepidation intertwining. The air around them buzzed with a charged energy, hinting at the power of the sorceress they sought. "Are you certain we should go deeper?" Nia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The majestic trees stood like sentinels, their gnarled roots twisting through the soil like the tangled thoughts in her mind. Kofi nodded resolutely. "We have to confront her. There's no going back now." The determination in his voice tempered Nia's anxiety, even as the ominous forest enveloped them more tightly. As they ventured onward, the rhythmic sound of their footsteps echoed amidst the rustling foliage. Strange birds flitted between the branches, their vibrant plumage creating fleeting colors that seemed out of place in the dim light. Kofi caught glimpses of bright flowers scattered among the brush, but there was something unnerving about the beauty of this place. It was almost too perfect, and he couldn't shake the unease that clawed at his heart. After what felt like hours of walking, they stumbled upon a clearing, and then there she stood, Amina. She was a vision, effortlessly captivating as she reclined against an ancient tree, as if the forest itself had shaped her. Her long hair tumbled in waves down her back, shimmering like starlight in the muted sun. Clad in a flowing garment that mirrored the colors of the earth and sky, Amina exuded an aura of ethereal grace. Kofi's breath hitched at the sight of her. It was as if time stood still, the world collapsing into a singular moment. Nia shifted beside him, quietly apprehensive, her eyes widening at Amina's beauty. Amina lifted her head, piercing eyes locking onto Kofi's. There was both wisdom and mischief swirling within them. "You've come looking for me," she stated, her voice melodic yet laced with an undercurrent of challenge. "Few dare to tread into my realm." Kofi swallowed hard, forcing himself to approach. "We hear that your presence has struck fear into our village. The men are losing their strength." His voice trembled slightly but steadied as he continued. "What power do you wield over them?" Amina smiled, the corners of her mouth curling in a way that beckoned both allure and warning. "Power? It flows like water through my fingers, yet it's not mine to command. I only bring forth what lies hidden within them. Their vitality wanes not because of me, but because they allow it." A flash of anger ignited in Kofi's chest. "You enchant them, draw their essence. You must stop." "Stop," she echoed, a laugh escaping her lips that was both musical and haunting. "What if I told you I offer a gift? A chance to embrace their deepest desires, their true selves? What man would refuse such an opportunity?" Nia stepped forward, her brow furrowed, and her voice firm. "But at what cost? You take their virility, their spirit. They become shadows of who they were." Amina regarded Nia with sparkling eyes, her expression shifting to one of intrigue. "And what are you, if not shadows of your desires, held back by the walls built by society? I create space for men to rediscover their essence, yet it comes at the price of their everyday lives. They must be willing to follow me." Kofi clenched his fists, caught between the pull of Amina's mesmerizing presence and the fierce devotion he felt toward his friends and community. "You've mistaken our struggles for weakness," he accused. "Vulnerability does not equate to failure. Our true strength lies in overcoming adversity." Amina's gaze deepened, as if she were seeing right into his soul. "You speak of strength, yet what do you know of true power? The world has conditioned you to deny your deepest needs. I can help you reclaim that power, Kofi." Her voice softened, alluring, coaxing. "What do you mean?" he asked, curiosity wresting control from his anger. "Meet me under the light of the next moon, and I will reveal the truth," she said, each word dripping with allure. "Join me, and you may see the answers you seek. A chance to embrace what it means to be truly alive." What about the others? Nia cut in. What will happen to them? Amina stepped closer, now drawing so close that Kofi could feel the warmth radiating from her. They must choose, just as you will. But beware, once you cross that threshold, there is no going back. She reached out, brushing her fingers along Kofi's arm, leaving a spark of warmth behind, electric and captivating. As her touch lingered, Kofi felt a swell of conflicting emotions. He wanted to resist, to pull away, yet the connection pulled him closer, tempting temptation under the pretense of revelation. That was Amina's power, the allure of possibilities. But he grappled with the knowledge of the devastation she had sown, even if cloaked in the promise of understanding. The silence stretched between them like a taut string, tension swirling in the air. We'll find a solution. The village needs you, Kofi finally stated, breathing deeply, striving for clarity amid his chaotic feelings. Amina's smile faded slightly, her eyes clouded with something unrecognizable. Just remember, Kofi, your choices shape your destiny. She turned away, as if dismissing the moment, blending back with the shadows of the ancient trees. Nia grabbed Kofi's arm, urgency flooding her voice. We have to leave. She's dangerous. Heart racing, Kofi nodded numbly but lingered for a heartbeat longer. He didn't quite understand the path that lay ahead, but the choices were clear. Embrace what lay bare in his soul or challenge the very essence of Amina's seductive sway. As they retraced their steps back through the tree-laden path, the towering trees seemed to whisper behind them, and Kofi felt the weight of Amina's promise pressing heavily on his heart. Answers awaited him, shrouded in the shimmering veil of moonlight. He soon realized that the battle was not just with Amina, but within himself, a struggle to reclaim the parts that seemed irrevocably lost. Would he be able to resist her pull for the sake of his people, or would her magic draw him into an abyss he could not return from? The Moonlit Revelation. The night cloaked Nyahuru in darkness, the village lit only by the shimmering stars that strewn across the sky like scattered diamonds. Kofi stood at the edge of his family's homestead, heart racing in rhythm with a distant drumbeat. Sweat trickled down his brow, a muggy mixture of excitement and fear enveloping him. Tonight was the night when he would meet Amina under the moonlight, an invitation that called to his very core. Nia's anxious footsteps approached behind him, interrupting his reverie. You're not having second thoughts, are you? She asked, a hint of concern threading her voice. She stood with her arms crossed, casting a shadow in the dim light. Kofi turned to her, determination hardening his features. No, I need to understand why she does what she does, why the men are withering. There may be something we can use against her. Or something that could consume you, Nia replied, biting her lip as she navigated through the vulnerability he displayed. You wouldn't be the first to fall under her spell. She's a sorceress, Kofi. He sighed, the back and forth weighing heavily on his heart. But what if there's a way to stop this without war? What if understanding her leads us to a solution? Their conversation thrummed with tension before Kofi finally nodded, a hard resolve solidifying within him. We'll go together then. I can't do this without you. As they made their way through the winding trails to the enchanted forest, the moonlight above illuminated their surroundings, creating an ethereal glow. The shadows shifted and danced, but Kofi pressed on, heart set on the confrontation ahead. In the depths of his mind, the weight of responsibility thrummed like a heartbeat. He owed this to his community. Approaching the clearing, where Amina had awaited them before, they held their breath. The forest felt expansive and alive, a tapestry of sounds converging into one harmonious whisper as they stepped into the moonlit glow. A cool breeze rustled the leaves above, and the full moon bathed the clearing in silver light, a perfect backdrop for magic and revelation. Amina emerged from the shadows, clad in a deep indigo dress that mirrored the night sky, shimmering as if adorned with stars. Her beauty transcended mere appearance, it felt almost divine. Kofi's heart lurched, both drawn and repelled by her presence. You came, Amina said, her voice low and intoxicating. I was beginning to worry you would turn away from your destiny. Let's not waste time with riddles, Kofi replied, fueled by a mixture of desire to understand and raw defiance. What do you really want from us? What power gives you the right to take from our men? A slow smile spread across Amina's face, and she stepped closer, closing the distance like a tempest gathering force. You misunderstand, Kofi. I do not take, I free them. They have imprisoned themselves within their own limitations, and I merely show them the path to their true desires. And what of the cost? Nia interjected, her voice unwavering. You turn men into shadows of their former selves. How is that freedom? Amina regarded Nia thoughtfully, as if pondering a riddle, then let out a melodic laugh that danced through the moonlit air. You are passionate, young one. But passion watered down by fear and restraint is mere sorrow. I can unleash desires buried beneath layers of obligation. What some may see as shadows, I see as rebirth. Kofi stepped forward. But at what price? We are not pieces on your chessboard, nor your pawns for entertainment. Amina's expression hardened, her gaze now unwavering. And what will you do? Fight me? Headstrong men have come before, their desires hidden beneath layers of pride. I am not your enemy, but the key to a deeper understanding of yourselves. Kofi hesitated, in conflict with the surge of emotions within him. He wanted to believe her words, to think that perhaps embracing what it meant to feel fulfilled was not tantamount to surrender. But the burden of responsibility for his village clawed at him, pulling him back from the allure of her promises. What are your desires, Kofi? Amina's voice softened, almost melodic. What do you wish for if there were no limits? The question hung in the air like fog, chilling Kofi to the bone. Thoughts of dreams long buried resurface. I want to create, he finally said, his voice trembling with vulnerability. To build, to inspire. Yet I feel trapped by the village's expectations, a future already carved out for me. Amina stepped closer, and her voice dropped to a whisper. What if I could help you unlock that potential? Not just for yourself, but to lift others within your community. A spark ignited within him, a glimmer of hope interwoven with temptation. Is this what your magic offers? He asked, wary yet intrigued. Magic is a reflection of the heart, Amina replied, her eyes shining with unearthly light. I can help you harness your desires and grant you the strength to reclaim what is lost. Nia shifted uncomfortably by Kofi's side, and he sensed her hesitation. And if I refuse? Kofi pressed, looking directly into those mesmerizing eyes that promised worlds unimagined. She leaned forward, intent. Then you may never know who you truly are. You may live in shadows. The man you could be will elude you, all because you stay chained by fear. Struggling against the tide of temptation, Kofi felt his breath quicken. It was a siren's call, echoing into the abyss of self-discovery and defiance. The challenge hung in the air like electricity, an unpaved road that beckoned him to take the first step. Join me under the next moon, and I will show you what it means to truly live, Amina said, her tone syrupy sweet. You will not be forsaken but reborn. Kofi remained torn. He knew the choice could lead to greatness or ruin. But might it also unveil the truths buried in his heart, reveal the capacity for a strength yet untested? The complexities of human desire intertwined with the uncertainties of magic and consequence flickered before him. I'll think about it, Kofi finally declared, his voice steady yet shaking with the moment's gravity. He was no longer merely a man of the village. He was standing on the precipice of fate, hovering between two worlds, the familiar and the forbidden. In the stillness that followed, the moon above bore witness to their exchange, a silvery guardian watching over dreams yet realized. As dawn loomed on the horizon, Kofi felt both the trepidation of the unknown and the hope of possibility mingle within him. Tonight was only the beginning. The moonlight had lit a path to discovery, but the way forward remained shrouded in uncertainty. Would he summon the courage to embrace it, or would he retreat, content to remain a shadow of his true self? The answers awaited him, coursing like a river beneath the surface, ready to spill forth. The echoes of desire. The break of dawn painted the horizon in soft pastels, a gradual awakening that pulled Kofi from the depths of his dreams. Morning light filtered through the cracks in his family's mud-brick home, illuminating the simple furnishings that filled the space. Yet, despite the beauty of a new day, he felt the weight of uncertainty press against him, heavy on his chest. He sat up, recalling the previous night's encounter. Amina's words echoed in his mind, primal whispers that pulled at the very fabric of who he was. She had offered him something he yearned for, a glimpse into his true self, removed from the expectations of the village. Yet how could he trust her? The choice forced him to reckon with the unseen threads that bound the men of Nayahuru, and the potential they could unleash. Nia's entrance broke his reverie. "You're up early," she said, trying to infuse her voice with cheer. She stood in the doorway, hands on her hips, posture bright with resilience. Yet Kofi could see the hints of worry etched in her features. "Couldn't sleep," Kofi confessed, dragging his fingers through his unruly hair. "I keep thinking about what Amina said." "I told you to be careful," Nia replied, stepping into the room and sitting across from him. "She's not what she seems. Just because she offers you a tempting vision doesn't mean it's what's best for the village." "I know," Kofi sighed, running his hands over his face. "But what if she's right? What if our desires are what we've left untapped just to follow the path set for us? What if I could help others find their power too?" Nia leaned forward, perceptively grasping the thread of his thoughts. "And you think that's worth risking your soul? This isn't just about you. This affects everyone in the village." Kofi met her gaze, steely resolve flashing through him. "Exactly. That's why I feel I have to see this through. None of us can keep living without understanding who we are. If Amina has the answer, then maybe I have to take that leap." "Walking into a trap is not the same as discovering answers," Nia cautioned, frustration creeping into her tone. "We have to be smart about this. Perhaps we need to confront Amina as a community, not just individually. Only together can we put an end to this." The idea struck Kofi like a thunderbolt through the mist of doubt. "You're right. We can't leave the others behind, but sitting idle won't help either. I'll speak to Mzee Ndungu. We need to regroup." With newfound urgency, Kofi and Nia hurriedly left his home, making their way to the village gathering grounds. The familiar sights of the village offered comfort, yet the suffocating anxiety lurked beneath every smile. Everyone seemed immersed in their own struggles, men's shoulders bent low, eyes hollow, the traces of Amina's magic palpable in the air. Mzee Ndungu stood by the baobab tree, engaged in hushed conversation with a few elders. Kofi approached, determination etched on his brow. "Elder, I believe we must act now." "What do you propose, Kofi?" Mzee Ndungu asked, his voice steady yet cautious. The elders looked on, curiosity mingling with apprehension. "Amina offers something that could shift our understanding of who we are and how we live," Kofi replied, weaving the truth into his words. "But we cannot let ourselves be drawn in individually. We have to confront her as a community." Gasps rippled through the gathering, furrows deepening on the elders' brows. "You would speak to a sorceress?" one elder challenged. "What if she intends to lead us to destruction? She already has us in darkness." Kofi shot back, the conviction fueling the urgency. "The men are suffering. We are losing what makes us vibrant. If she possesses the key to understanding our true selves, how can we not explore it?" Mzee Ndungu studied Kofi closely, weighing the risk. "What you speak may hold merit, yet we tread on perilous ground. What assurance have we that she won't enact further damage? If we face her collectively, we may hold enough strength to counter her influence," Kofi argued. "Leaving things as they are is not an option. We know our village is suffering, and it is our responsibility to reclaim what belongs to us." The murmurs of agreement began to ripple among the villagers. One elder stepped forward, bold as the baobab itself. "Perhaps it is time to elevate the veil and face what haunts us. We cannot live in the shadow of fear." Mzee Ndungu nodded slowly, the weight of his authority resting heavily on his shoulders. "Then we shall confront Amina, a dance between light and dark, as ancient as our very existence." The gathered villagers, now emboldened by the prospect of reclaiming strength, began to disperse, each carrying the fire of their commitment. Kofi felt Nia's hand in his, a silent acknowledgement of their partnership. "We have a chance," she whispered, her determination shining through. "But we have to prepare ourselves. Amina is powerful. We need to be vigilant." That evening, the village gathered once more in the clearing near the baobab tree, ready to discuss the pursuit of knowledge. Kofi shared the stories and wisdom gleaned from his encounters, pushing aside fear and doubting whispers. One by one, men and women shared their dreams, passions long subdued, and the weight of expectations that had choked their spirits. As night enveloped the village, the stars twinkled overhead, vast and mysterious. The atmosphere pulsed with renewed energy, a binding force of unity. They shared stories of their hopes and desires, rekindling flames of purpose that had faded to embers. As Kofi looked around him, something awakened, an understanding that together they could challenge the veil Amina had cast over them. They were not merely victims, but custodians of their own fate, transformed by knowledge and resolve. Emboldened by the connection they forged, they made a pact, vowing to confront Amina, not for vengeance, but for understanding. As dawn approached, Kofi felt hope rise within him, intertwining with the dream of what could be, but it also brought questions of ambition and risk. They were all set to reclaim what had been lost, but they would need to navigate the treacherous waters of Amina's enchantments carefully. As Kofi finally drifted into sleep, dreams of liberation danced with shadows beneath the moonlight, a prelude to the challenges that lay ahead. Would the power of collective desire be enough to guide them through, or would Amina's captivating magic ensnare them all once more? The gathering storm. The village awoke to a restless morning, clouds clinging to the horizon like a shroud, dimming the sun's vibrant rays. Kofi felt the weight of anticipation in the air, a sensation that stirred uneasily within him. Today would mark a turning point. His heart raced at the thought of confronting Amina and the uncertainty her magic brought. As the villagers congregated, a sense of purpose permeated the atmosphere. Mzee Ndungu stood at the forefront, his expression a mixture of solemnity and hope. Today we gather not just as separate beings but as one heart, bound by the threads of our shared destinies, he addressed the assembly. Amina has cast her shadows upon our men, and together, we will rise against it. Kofi stood near Nia, the familiar warmth of her presence anchoring him amidst the tension. He stole glances at the close-knit community. Men barely lifting their heads, women exchanging whispered fears. The act of reclaiming their vitality relied not just on confronting Amina but also on rekindling the bonds they once cherished. As twilight fell, the villagers made their way toward the enchanted forest, the path bathed in the soft glow of fading light. Kofi led the way, his heart a battlefield of nerves and excitement, with every step echoing the solidarity of the gathered souls pressing forth by his side. The once whispers of apprehension morphed into murmurs of strength, enthusiastic discussions igniting possibilities of liberation. We must remain united, trust each other with our vulnerabilities, Kofi urged, his confidence building. As they neared the clearing that housed Amina's presence, the atmosphere shifted. A cool breeze whipped through the trees, heightening the anticipation and trepidation alike. Shadows danced in the underbrush, and the moon hung low, a sentinel bearing witness to their encounter. Approaching the clearing, the gathered villagers positioned themselves in a circle, a symbolic gathering empowered by their shared conviction. Kofi stood at the forefront, heart pounding, scanning for Amina. Would she truly respond to their challenge? Suddenly, Amina stepped into view, radiating with an ethereal glow, the fabric of her indigo dress shimmering against the moonlit backdrop. The air thickened with tension as she regarded the assembly with an expression that combined curiosity and amusement. "Ah, my brave villagers," she purred, her eyes sparkling with unearthly light. "You've decided to confront your fates. I must admit, the sheer audacity is captivating." Kofi stepped forward, adrenaline surging through him. "We are not here to cower or hide anymore. You have taken from our men, stripped them of their vitality, and it ends today." Amina tilted her head, adopting an attitude of playful intrigue. "What makes you presume it is I who has taken from them? Have you explored what lies beneath your own choices? Enough games." Nia called out, stepping beside Kofi, voice fierce. "You've woven your spell, and it has ensnared the hearts of our men. We seek understanding, not just for ourselves, but for the very essence of who we are." "Understanding brings responsibility," Amina replied evenly, appearing unfazed by their resolve. "What you seek may expose vulnerabilities you believe are weaknesses. Are you prepared to face them?" Kofi steeled himself as he locked eyes with Amina. "We've already lived under the weight of our own fears, the shadows of expectation snuffing the light of desire. If exposing those vulnerabilities is part of reclaiming our power, then we will not back down." With a slow smile, Amina walked closer, her presence enveloping the clearing like an alluring enchantment. "You speak of light and shadow, yet know this, every choice demands a cost. The path to enlightenment is wrought with sacrifice." "Then let it be so," Kofi declared, bolstered by the unity around him. "We are willing to take that cost. We want our vitality back. No more fear, only growth. Mzee Ndungu stepped forward, surveying the villagers who stood resolutely together, their determination a palpable force around him. Amina, we shall no longer be pawns in your game. We challenge you to guide us, not lead us astray. Amina tilted her head in mock applause. Ah, a courageous council preparing to dance with shadows. Your desires must unravel in a synchronized chorus. Only then will you begin to comprehend the depths of self. Kofi felt the tremors of uncertainty pulse through him, yet he stood firm. If that is what it takes to reclaim the vibrancy that has been taken, then we will not shy away. With that declaration, Amina's demeanor shifted. Very well. Prepare yourselves for the reverberations of your desires. Close your eyes and listen. Let the whispers guide you. Kofi urged himself to trust the process, closing his eyes along with the assembled villagers. The world around him fell away, replaced by a mosaic of colorful thoughts and emotions. Visions flitted in and out. Hopes of family, dreams of love, aspirations of artistry, and the cries for freedom from societal constraints. Now, replace those desires with the shadows that hold you captive. Amina's voice echoed, both melodic and haunting. Let them speak. Let them not be buried. The villagers called forth their fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of disappointment, and fear of loss. Each fear rang out intertwined with memories and aspirations, taking shape amid the echoes of longing and doubt. Kofi was astonished by the clarity of feeling that poured forth, vulnerability carving new paths in the forest of his heart. As the collective murmurs melded into a sonic wave, Kofi noticed Amina standing in the center, her arms raised as if surrendering to the sacred ritual unfolding around them. Feel how the shadows mingle with your desires, she urged, the incantation flowing through the grove like a gentle river. Transform that energy, let it empower you, and embrace the beautiful chaos of who you are. Confrontation lies not in conflict but in acceptance. Kofi dared to seek the interplay between fears and desires, feeling an electric shock pulse through him. This was not just Amina's magic, it was the essence of humanity, the collision of light and dark, of dreams and despair. The pain transformed into strength, tears flowed in cathartic release, and finally, understanding seeped in. As the village united, faces illuminated by newfound clarity and resilience, Kofi felt alive, the realization of hidden desires igniting within him, a fire no longer stifled by doubt. Amina lowered her arms, the intensity of the moment slowing. Such power lies within you. The choice to embrace it is intrinsically yours. Kofi opened his eyes, meeting Amina's gaze with renewed confidence. The villagers stood together, hearts unearthing the potential that dwelled beneath uncertainty. The storm within them was rising, an awakening that could no longer be ignored. They stood, resolved and unwavering, ready to forge a new path together, side by side. The echoes of desire and fear intertwined, weaving a tapestry of strength that would guide them into the heart of their destinies. As night fully descended upon Nyahuru, they prepared to embrace the tempest that awaited. Amina had offered a glimpse beyond the shadows, and now it was their turn to walk willingly into the light. Would they harness that power to reclaim their vitality, or would the tides wash them away once more? Unveiling the Shadows. The night deepened, the moon now a brilliant lantern illuminating the forest. A hush fell over the gathered villagers, their hearts pounding like war drums. Kofi felt the fire of determination coursing through his veins. This was their moment to break free from the chains Amina had cast and reclaim their essence. Amina's voice drifted gently through the clearing, pulling Kofi from his thoughts. Now that you have embraced your desires and fears, the time has come to unearth the truths buried deep within your hearts. Gather your strength and be prepared for the repercussions. What do you mean? Kofi asked, his brow furrowing as he moved closer to her. To confront the shadows, Amina replied, stepping back into the moonlight with a grace that eluded the ordinary. You are not merely facing my magic, but the internal battles that lie beneath. We must expose your deepest truths. Mzee Ndungu stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. We are not afraid, Amina. We wish to bring light to what you've cast into darkness. Fear is a natural response, Amina replied, her voice silky yet edged with intrigue. But it need not control you. Your truth must be confronted. Not just in this moment, but in the life beyond this clearing. The crowd stirred. Kofi could sense the tension rising as they prepared for what lay ahead. How do we confront these truths? He inquired, a mixture of courage and trepidation swimming in his chest. Amina gestured towards the ancient tree that stood at the center of the clearing. You shall each take a turn to speak your truth aloud, an invocation to the spirits that linger within. Let your voice echo beneath the stars. Kofi exchanged glances with Nia. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing upon them. It was time to unearth the shadows that had held them captive for too long. The villagers began to form a circle around the tree, their breaths mingling in the still night air. One by one, they approached the tree, placing their hands upon its rough, time-worn bark, grounding themselves before they spoke. Kofi watched as the first villager, a farmer named Juma, stepped forward nervously. I fear the weight of my family's expectations. I am to inherit the lands, yet my heart yearns for the artistry that brings me joy. I feel trapped, torn between what I should do and what I desire. His voice trembled but resonated with the needed authenticity. Kofi sensed an energy emanating from Juma, a whisper of understanding from the spirits surrounding them. A murmur of support rippled through the villagers. As the next villager, Amina's own voice punctuated the night air with elegance. I, too, carry shadows, the burden of loneliness. I yearn for connection, yet fear it will ravage all I've built. For what you perceive as enchantment comes with a price. The echo of her words resonated in Kofi's mind, exposing the cracks beneath her confident facade. While Amina wielded power, she grappled with the same shadows of fear, echoing their struggles. Villager after villager stepped forward, unveiling their darkest confessions: fear of inadequacy, fear of abandonment, shame of desire, anger at unfulfilled dreams. Some spoke softly, others with a fervor that shook the ground beneath them. Each revelation morphed into threads, weaving a tapestry of shared vulnerability. When it was Nia's turn, she approached the tree, eyes brimming with unshed tears. I fear stagnation, the thought that I may remain confined within the village. I want to experience the world, yet there's a pull, an attachment that holds me back. Kofi's heart ached for her, and trust ignited between them, strong and unwavering. He knew how deeply she felt the weight of familial ties, along with her unquenchable thirst for discovery. As she stepped back, a deeper sense of respect flourished, one that would carry them into the unknown. Kofi felt a shift within himself, the realization that what they all faced was not individual, it was collective. Finally, it came time for Kofi to step forward, the voices of his neighbors still resonating in his mind. As he placed his palm against the ancient bark, he felt a tether to his ancestry, every heartbeat echoing through time. What must I say? He pondered aloud as he struggled to muster the courage within him. I fear I may not live up to the expectations within the village. I also fear losing the very friendships that have held us together in the face of change. The weight of honesty pressed heavily on Kofi's heart, yet the words spilled forth. I yearn for something more, but I fear that pursuing it may pull us apart. I fear disappointing my friends. A silence enveloped the clearing, but for the first time that night, the weight felt lighter. Kofi sensed the villagers rallying behind him, the shared truths echoing with power. Together, they shared the burden of vulnerability, their fears intertwining under the moonlit sky. Let what grips you transform into strength, Amina urged, voice ringing with urgency. Let these shadows not bind you but become a source of vigor. With that declaration, Amina summoned a gust of wind that rippled through the clearing, carrying the weight of each truth enkindled in the air. It wrapped around the villagers, stirring strength within them, mingling with laughter and tears alike. But as the winds howled, something shifted. The shadows that had once seemed impenetrable began to lift. Bonds of understanding grew strong and luminous, a raw energy intertwining threads of love and friendship forged in the crucible of honesty. The wind echoed with the whispers of their shared desires, a promise solidifying beneath their feet. Strength arises from vulnerability, Kofi realized, feeling renewed courage surge within him. Yet, Amina's expression shifted, growing to one quivering with urgency. But heed this warning, every truth unveiled invites the shadows to test your resolve. Be wary, the storm you've summoned may come at a cost. A chill snaked up Kofi's spine as uncertainty loomed around them, the recognition that this newfound strength would be confronted with challenges yet unknown. As the night unfolded, they had stirred the embers of enlightenment, but the road ahead remained shrouded in deeper shadows. Would they withstand the trials that awaited them? And would Amina's power unveil not just illumination, but deeper enigmas yet unsolved? A rush of anticipation pulsed through Kofi's veins, ready to dance with the complexity of it all, but uncertainty lurked just beyond the horizon, ready to test their resolve. The Tempest Breaks. The night continued to swirl around them, but the palpable energy generated by their collective truths hung in the air like a shimmering haze. Kofi could feel the warmth of newfound solidarity radiating from the villagers, yet beneath its brightness, an undercurrent of tension stirred. A storm was brewing, and it was only a matter of time before the tempest would break. As they stood in the clearing, gazing at Amina with a mixture of resolve and trepidation, the wind shifted. Dark clouds began to gather overhead, a stark contrast to the clarity they had just fostered. Kofi turned to Nia, anxiety tightening around his heart. "Amina, what is happening?" he asked, his voice taut with worry. She tilted her head upward, her expression contemplative. "The unveiling of truth awakens ancient forces," she explained, her tone abrupt. "You have called forth strength, but you must also brace yourselves for the shadows that lurk in the depths." A crack of thunder echoed ominously through the clearing, followed by flashes of lightning illuminating the faces of the villagers. The once quiet forest now bristled with energy, and Kofi felt the air thicken with expectancy. "What does this mean for us?" Nia questioned, concern lacing her voice. "Will we face danger?" Amina's eyes glinted in the half-light. "Every manifestation of strength is met with equal challenge. It is the balance of nature." She raised her arms, a gesture both regal and commanding. "Embrace what comes. Weakness will reveal itself in your defiance, but strength binds together those who trust." Before Kofi could respond, the first drop of rain splattered against the ground, quickly growing into a downpour that drowned out their voices. The villagers instinctively huddled closer together, hearts pounding in rhythm with the booming thunder. Kofi could feel the energy of the storm meld with that of the villagers, charging the air around them with urgency. "We must not falter," he shouted, raising his voice above the cacophony. "This is our test, proof of our unity." With those words, bolts of lightning pierced the heavens, illuminating the scene around them in stark flashes. For a moment, it felt as though they were surrounded by swirling shadows, both dark and alluring. Each crack of lightning sent surges of anxiety and excitement through Kofi's veins, but he couldn't afford to succumb to fear. "Trust in one another," he cried, as they stood shoulder to shoulder, forming a living tapestry of courage. The storm may have been raging around them, but it could not sever the bonds they had forged in their vulnerability. With gritted teeth, Kofi summoned his resolve. He turned to face the tempest brewing in Amina's gaze. "We will weather this together." Abruptly, the rain intensified, cold splashes soaking them to the skin. Amina's mysterious energy surged around them, painting the night with flashes of iridescence amidst the chaos. The connection binding their souls deepened, pulling them together through the eye of the storm. Suddenly, a low rumble resonated through the depths of the forest, vibrating not just in the air but within Kofi's bones. He felt the shadows swell and weave their way around the gathered villagers like a living entity. Hushed whispers surged through the crowd as flickering shadows began to take form. Among the darkness, Kofi discerned faint images of men and women echoing his greatest fears and insecurities. He could see Juma wrestling with self-doubt, shadows clawing at his heart, Nia confronting insidious memories of abandonment that threatened to consume her. Each villager faced their own specters, and Kofi felt the weight of their struggles intertwining with his own. "Face them," Amina shouted, her voice like a bell ringing through the storm, urging them onward. "Only by confronting your fears can you harness the strength they hide." Kofi rallied his spirit. He stepped forward, the rain cascading off him like a baptism, washing away the remnants of doubt. "I am not alone," he proclaimed, feeling the furor of his fight resonate in his heart. The shadows began to inch away from him as if retreating from the undeniable truth of his resolve. With renewed purpose, he turned to the others. "Let us face them together. We can hold them at bay." One by one, the villagers echoed Kofi's declaration. As they stood firm, fists raised against the storm, spectral figures wavered, blurring and losing their shape in the face of unwavering unity. As the winds howled, Kofi pushed through his fears, reaching out to the manifestations that haunted his companions. "You are not the shadows, you are part of us." We embrace our truths. The villagers screamed their affirmations, voices intertwining through the storm, haunting melodies clashing against the wind as waves of vulnerability morphed into strength. The figures flickered and snarled, but they could no longer intimidate. The storm fumed, yet within the tempest, seeds of resilience began to blossom. Let the shadows break, Nia urged as she stepped forward, her own doubts flickering before her. Remember who you are. Remember the dreams you dare to chase. Kofi could feel the power shift, uniting them as currents of warmth surged through the crowd. The oppressive weight of doubt began to dissipate, replaced by a fierce light that glowed brighter with each passing moment. Finally, with a final mighty flash of lightning, the storm erupted into a spectacular display. Shadows dispersed, scattering like ashes in the wind. The rain began to lighten, and though it continued to fall, it became gentle, cleansing, and refreshing. As calm settled on the clearing, Kofi stood amidst his friends, feeling the weight of their shared experiences. Silence embraced them, and he glanced around at the faces of those he loved, their breaths heavy, yet filled with an exhilarating sense of triumph. "We did it," he whispered, disbelief turning to wonder. "Together, we pushed through." In the fading light, amidst the remnants of a powerful storm, Amina approached, her eyes alight with astonishment. "You have unbound the storms within you. Foes are reduced to dust when faced with unity." Kofi felt pride surge within him, but with it, a flicker of uncertainty remained. What awaited them now that the storms had subsided? Questions loomed on the horizon, shrouded in deeper puzzles yet unsolved, leaving a fracture in the newfound light. Yet, beyond the storm lies clearer paths, Amina began, her gaze piercing into his. "Light must dance with the shadows. The question now is how you intend to wield its power." A flicker of anticipation spread through Kofi, a shiver of awareness. He could feel the stirring of magic mingling delicately with newfound strength, waiting for their next move. Realization struck them all. Darkness and light interwoven would forge a new chapter in their fight. But the uncertainty of what that would require lingered in the air, a question merely awaiting its answer. Choices in the light. As dawn broke over Nyahuru, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the remnants of the storm, transforming the drenched earth into a glistening tapestry. Kofi stood amidst the villagers, a sense of bonding unspoiled by the night's tempestuous unveiling. They had faced their fears, unveiled truths long hidden, yet questions began to swirl in his mind. What lay beyond the horizon of their shared bravery? What challenges awaited them now that they had unmasked their inner shadows? He felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation flow through him as the villagers began to gather near the now still baobab tree. Amina stood on the periphery, her presence a mixture of strength and mystery. A reminder that while they had emerged as victors, the real battle was only beginning. The storm had unveiled much, but Kofi could still sense shadows lurking, waiting to challenge their fragile resolve. "Today, you have triumphed over the shadows that once bound you," Mzee Ndungu began, voice deep and reverberating like the summer's thunder. "But remember, the forces you've awakened cannot be tamed easily. The dance you've begun must be balanced with caution." Kofi raised his voice, emboldened by their shared victory. "We cannot retreat into fear again. We have faced our truths, and we must unite to forge our future." Nia stepped beside him, her wet hair glimmering in the morning light. "We have a chance to reclaim our village, to breathe life back into our dreams. Let's explore what we can become together." The villagers murmured in affirmation, their eyes brightened with potential. The air buzzed with quiet enthusiasm, yet Kofi could perceive an undercurrent of worry woven through the resolve. Amina faced them, an enigmatic smile dancing on her lips. "You have awakened strength, yet strength alone is not enough. You must choose how to wield it, be it for construction or destruction," Amina exhorted, her voice carrying in the morning air, vibrating with unspoken weight. "What do you mean?" Juma interjected, brows furrowed in confusion. "How do we choose what to do with this strength?" Amina stepped closer, her gaze penetrating as she surveyed the villagers. "Every choice you make now reflects your deepest desires, desires that weave the fabric of your existence. Understand that your actions will reverberate through the very essence of this community." Kofi felt a shiver of foreboding. What if their choices led to ruin? But within that uncertainty lay the potent spark of possibility. "We must not fear the weight of our decisions. "We have come too far to back down now," he declared. Amina tilted her head, considering him. "You speak of strength, Kofi. But the greatest power lies within your own conscience. Every choice will carry both the promise of light and the specter of shadow, will pull and push at your spirit. Know this, and prepare for the consequences of how you wield your newfound vitality." The villagers exchanged uncertain glances. Mzee Ndungu stepped forward again, drawing their attention. "Let's take time to reflect on our next steps. We are a community, and together we must weave a tapestry of hope amid confusion. We cannot rush into our choices." Kofi felt the anticipation settle like a weight inside him, a desire to push forward yet grounded by the wisdom imparted. "What if we create a plan?" he proposed. "Let's gather our dreams and begin to outline what we wish to achieve. We can harness this newfound strength to rejuvenate our village, invigorate our spirit, and face any shadow that emerges." "A splendid idea," Nia added, eyes sparkling with excitement. "We should share our desires and set goals to transform them into reality. We can rebuild what has been lost." One by one, under the sprawling branches of the baobab tree, the villagers began to share their dreams. Hopes of a vibrant market space replaced by simple goods, an artistic hub to inspire creativity among the youth, fertile lands cultivated side by side to celebrate collaboration, all echoed in the cool morning air. Amidst the exchange, Kofi noticed Amina observing quietly, a knowing smile gracing her lips. He approached her, trying to grasp the deeper mystery that swirled around her presence. "Is this what you hoped to see? Us banding together, finding strength in each other?" "It is only the beginning," Amina replied, her voice a blend of warmth and caution. "You have forged connections, but remember that connections can break if tested too harshly. The shadows are layered, and when pushed, they will seek to reclaim what was lost." "What do you mean?" Kofi asked, unease creeping in as he felt a tremor of doubt. "Your choices will not just impact you, they ripple through the very essence of your community," Amina cautioned. "Focus not only on your ambitions but on maintaining the delicate balance between your desires and the needs of those around you." With that, she turned and began to pace the gathering space, her fingers grazing the rough bark of the baobab tree as if seeking its wisdom. Kofi remained rooted in place, feeling her words resonate within him. What if their ambitions pulled them apart instead of bringing them together? A knot twisted in his stomach as doubt lingered like a dark shadow, casting a pall over their dreams. As the villagers continued to share their dreams, Kofi's gaze drifted to Nia, grounding himself in her warmth. He saw the flicker of hope in her eyes, a light that intertwined with what lay ahead. They would need to remain vigilant, yet they also needed to embrace their path forward. The villagers concluded their sharing, an aura of hope revitalizing the clearing. "Now," Mzee Ndungu said, the sense of authority restored. "Let us divide into teams based on our goals, confront our fears, and solidify our plans." Excitement bubbled around them as everyone began to discuss the future of their village. Kofi felt his heart lift alongside theirs, chasing away the shadows that had plagued them for far too long. As the villagers dove into the logistics of their newfound purpose, Kofi and Nia stepped aside for a moment. "I'm nervous," she admitted quietly. "What if we can't see it through? What if our hopes turn to ash?" He took her hands in his, grounding them both in their shared vibrations. "We won't let fear take root again. Each of us carries the strength of our truth. We will face whatever shadows we encounter together." The confidence in his voice bolstered Nia's courage, her breath steadying as she nodded. "Together. You're right, we can't allow the shadows to chase away our light." With the renewed spirit surrounding them, Kofi felt the weight of the world lift, brimming with renewed possibility. Together, the villagers would embark on a journey that would reaffirm the strength of their bonds and fortify the light they had ignited in themselves. But as the plans began shaping the foundations of their rekindled dreams, Kofi's instincts still whispered caution. While they had faced the storm, the true challenge stretched before them like shadows awaited on a horizon yet unseen. What trials lay in wait, ready to test their resolve? As excitement climbed within him, the thrill of that uncertainty mingled with the ironclad knowledge. Only by confronting their fears could they reclaim their village from the grip of shadows. And it was then that Kofi realized they would need to move deliberately, for the choices they made now would ultimately shape the future of Nyahururu. Shadows in the mist. The days that followed the awakening were filled with palpable energy in Nyahuru. Each morning, the sun rose with a promise that shimmered against the dew-soaked grass, while the villagers banded together to infuse life back into their community. Kofi could feel the vibrancy of purpose pulsing through the air. It was intoxicating, a sweet nectar of hope that invigorated every corner of the village. Yet beneath that heady brew of motivation, Kofi could still sense the shadows lingering, unseen and uninvited, whimsy woven with caution. For all the plans crafted by the villagers, Kofi wondered what perils might still await. The uncertain reality slumbered there, waiting to reveal its truths. As the sun fully illuminated the village square, Kofi gathered the villagers once more beneath the baobab tree to unite their aspirations into action. "We've talked about our dreams," he began, heart racing. "Now we must put them into motion. We need to divide into teams based on our goals and determine what steps we can take to achieve them." A hush fell over the crowd, anticipation electric in the air. Mzee Ndungu stood beside Kofi, nodding with approval as villagers shared their laughter and enthusiasm. Kofi admired the eagerness on their faces, a stark contrast to the days that had previously clouded their spirits. Nia, standing alongside him, spoke up with fervor. "We should form groups based on skills. Farmers can work with artisans, storytellers can inspire everyone to retain the culture that makes us unique. We can weave our dreams together." Supportive voices rang out in agreement. As Kofi glanced around, he caught sight of Amina lingering at the edge of the gathering, observing with an air of inscrutable complexity. He felt a twinge of gratitude mixed with trepidation. She had opened their eyes, but would she guide them through their choices, or would her shadows once again take hold? They began organizing into groups, enthusiasm effervescing around them. Kofi partnered with Juma and several other farmers who dreamed of revitalizing agricultural practices. "Let's brainstorm ways to improve our crops and share knowledge," Kofi suggested. They huddled, voices exchanging ideas about sustainability and rich harvests. Meanwhile, Nia led a group focused on creating artisan crafts for a new market. As Kofi watched her lead with passion, admiration swelled within him. Her eyes sparkled with creativity, and the laughter of the villagers echoed in the square, rising in mirth and spilling into the skies. Yet, despite the optimism that surrounded them, Kofi couldn't shake the gnawing sense of impending danger. As night descended, whispers of uncertainty followed him home. In bed, he tossed and turned, thoughts of shadows weaving through his mind, creating a restless tapestry. The next day dawned clear and bright, yet Kofi's dreams haunted his thoughts. The shadowy figures encroached upon their ambitions, teasing the edges of his consciousness. They couldn't ignore the truth. Challenges loomed, threatening to slip beyond the horizon if they didn't remain vigilant. As daylight stretched into full bloom, the villagers busily worked to bring their plans to life. The sound of hammers echoed, the scent of freshly tilled earth mingling with laughter as children played nearby. Yet, any sense of normalcy frayed when chatter faded into sudden silence. Kofi turned to see ominous dark clouds rolling in, dimming the sun like a bruise upon the sky. Winds picked up, rustling leaves and sending shivers down Kofi's spine. As the shadows thickened, worry settled deep within him. "What's happening?" Nia called, confusion etched across her features. Kofi sensed rising tension as villagers shared worried glances. The winds howled, swirling in a chaotic dance. A dark mist crept through the square, thick and foreboding. "Stay together," Kofi shouted, instinct taking over as he reached for Nia's hand. Mzee Ndungu stepped forward, raising his voice above the storm. "We must remain united. Remember the power of your truths." The villagers gathered, their interwoven spirits creating a sanctuary amidst the darkness. Yet, the mist curled around them, shifting the atmosphere. Whispers emanated from the haze, words distorted, slithering into minds and plucking at buried anxieties. Kofi clenched Nia's hand, his heart pounding as shadows took shape, figures emerging from the mist, eyes glowing with otherworldly light. They coalesced into the specters of deepest fears, tearing through their confidence, dredging up insecurities once banished. Juma's spectral form emerged, taunting, "What have you done to reclaim vitality? Blind faith won't shield you from truth." "No," Kofi shouted, his voice reverberating. "We are stronger together. We will confront our fears." Doubt infiltrated hearts as ghostly echoes rattled louder. You wish for crops, but will they thrive? Or remain barren dreams? Nia stepped forward, strength igniting. We have faced shadows before. You haunt me, but I refuse to remain bound by fear. My dreams are real. In solidarity, the villagers reclaimed their voices, banding together in a collective chorus. We are Nayahuru. We will not bow to illusions. Kofi felt power radiate, igniting resistance against the shadows. Taking the lead, he raised his voice. We've weathered storms before. We won't return to darkness. The apparitions recoiled, clashing with conviction. The villagers held firm as the mist parted, specters fading into echoes. Unity had pierced the darkness, light glimmering anew. As the sun broke free, relief washed over Kofi as villagers erupted into cheers. Yet, beneath the celebration lingered a haunting awareness. The shadows weren't gone entirely. As Kofi came to terms with that truth, he saw Amina perched at the edge of the square, her knowing look hinting at deeper mysteries ahead. Courage rekindled, the villagers readied themselves for the next challenge, knowing the shadows would never be far. Embers and Echoes. The village square buzzed with life in the wake of the storm. Joyful laughter rang like a chorus as families reunited, and the air was thick with the scent of earth and new beginnings. Kofi felt the warmth of community revitalize his spirit, yet the echoes of the misty shadows still lingered in the back of his mind, a soft whisper reminding him that celebration often mingles with danger. As the villagers rallied to restore order, Kofi sought out Nia. What do we do now? He asked, glancing around at the excited faces around them. That mist. It taught us that our fears can return in unexpected ways. Nia nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. We need to strengthen our bonds, keep our truths fresh in our minds. The more we share, the less power those shadows will hold over us. Kofi understood her intentions. Vulnerability and openness were essential to lessen the shadows' grip. Then let's organize small gatherings, share stories and fears before the shadows can creep in. It will build our defenses. As they began to share the idea with the villagers, enthusiasm rippled through the crowd. The villagers agreed to gather in smaller, safe spaces throughout the week, their hearts united by shared truths and aspirational dreams. That night, as the moon hung full in the sky, casting silver light over the village, Kofi and Nia gathered a small group of friends, including Juma and a few women artisans and farmers. They convened under the shelter of a majestic fig tree just outside the village, far enough to create an intimate setting free from distractions. Let's set the tone tonight, Kofi suggested as they all sat in a circle upon silken blankets. This space is ours, a safe harbor where we can share what weighs on us the most. Nia smiled at the group, her soothing presence captivating. Remember, there's no judgment here. Every fear, every dream matters. As they took turns speaking, a gentle ebb and flow of energy filled the air. Juma was the first to share, his voice steady yet vulnerable. I fear that despite all our efforts, nothing will change. I've sacrificed so much for the land, and I wonder if I'll see it flourish again. I feel that too, one of the women chimed in, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. As a craftsman, I fear the future might eclipse my heritage, the skills I've grown up with fading into obscurity. Each voice added to the simmering pot of emotions, strangling parts of Kofi's heart as insecurity surfaced, yet within each confession lay a nugget of understanding, a reminder that vulnerability could be a beacon of strength. As they shared, Kofi realized that every fear expressed weakened its hold over them, dimming the shadows that threatened to consume their resolve. Finally, they turned to Nia, who bent her knee up against her chest. I wish for adventure. I want to break free, yet I fear what that might mean for my relationships here. With the weight of her admission hanging in the air, Kofi leaned closer, his heart aching for her. We understand that desire, Nia, but know that chasing dreams does not mean abandoning those you love. It's about growing together or finding ways to bridge your journeys. A ripple of surprise danced among them all, and Nia smiled, grounded by their support. You're right, I don't need to choose one over the other. I can forge bonds between my passion and home, empowering both. Inspired by their collective courage, Kofi felt the purpose burning brightly within him. We are creating something new. This space should radiate a spark of collaboration. Together, let's explore ways to intertwine our dreams, let them thrive, and celebrate the spirits of our ancestors. As the night deepened, laughter filled the air, spurring life into their discussions. They began to envision creative festivals, themes that would integrate their duties, weaving artistry into labor, connecting the villagers to the rich tapestry of their culture. Tired and satisfied, Kofi could see that their small gathering was only the beginning. He sensed the burgeoning energy within, knowing that the quicker they embraced their individual and collective truths, the stronger the community bonds would become. But as they moved into shared aspirations, Kofi could still feel the faint echoes of shadows beneath the surface. Light was not absolute. What danced on the edges bore the possibility of darkness melding within. The fear of failure haunted him still. As the meeting wound down, he slipped away momentarily, seeking solace in solitude under the stars. The cool night air embraced him, but thoughts churned in his mind. He wondered how long they could sustain this newfound resolve. Would it truly be enough when faced with the specters of fear? A familiar voice broke the silence, sending a jolt of surprise through him. "You think too deeply, Kofi." Amina emerged from the darkness, her silhouette defined as she stepped into the moon's silvery glow. "You keep your head burdened with caution when joy sparks all about you." "I'm grateful for that joy," he replied, a mix of admiration and wariness in his tone. "But I can't help but be wary. We've faced one challenge, but shadows linger. We've only begun." Amina approached, her voice low but resonant. "You must understand the art of balance. Joy and fear dance together. Embracing both will help you navigate what lies ahead. It is in the very shadows you will find clarity." Kofi considered her words, their depth sinking in. "We're striving to reclaim our vitality, to confront the very things that chain us." "Precisely," she affirmed. "But your vitality also means embracing the darkness you fear, understanding it, and allowing it to inform your choices. The more you suppress it, the more it will cling to you. So we should welcome fear?" Kofi asked, brow furrowing in confusion. "No," Amina clarified, her eyes glimmering with wisdom. "You must dance with it. What you acknowledge cannot consume you, but rather teaches you. Your choices will forge your path. Walk boldly into the shadows. Let them inform and guide you." With that, she stepped back, disappearing into the veil of night and leaving Kofi in contemplative silence. The blend of shadows and dreams crept into his thoughts, intertwining and swirling. A new sense of bravery entwined with vulnerability, igniting a fire within him, illuminating the path. Feeling the weight of revelations break upon him, Kofi returned to Nia and their friends, a renewed determination shimmering in his heart. They stood together before the fig tree, filled with laughter and life, and realized they were ready to embrace whatever awaited them. In their unity, shadows could not sever their bonds. Instead, they would face them, fear not as foes but as shadows with lessons to impart. Kofi felt ready. He would honor the light and learn from the darkness as they navigated the intricacies of their choices and what it meant to be truly alive. The interconnected paths of light and shadow awaited, promising new discoveries on the journey ahead. The heart of the matter. As dawn broke over Nyahuru, the village seemed transformed, suspended between the brilliance of light and the faint whispers of shadows. Kofi rose with an undeniable sense of purpose, fueled by the revelations from his encounter with Amina. Today, he would steer the villagers toward their dreams, but first, they needed to gather their energy and confront the truth beneath their aspirations. The air was crisp, invigorating his resolve as he drifted through the village, exchanging greetings with familiar faces. Each smile he received reminded him of their shared strength, yet an undercurrent of uncertainty streaked through his thoughts. Shadows lurked at the edges, waiting for a moment of weakness to regain their foothold. Arriving at the square, Kofi found the villagers already assembling, bubbling with excitement. Nia and Juma chatted animatedly, surrounded by artisans and farmers who swapped visions of what the future could hold. Their energy was contagious, a vibrant spark igniting hope in Kofi. "Today, we solidify our plans and begin to craft the festival of dreams we envisioned," Kofi announced as he stepped onto the raised platform in the square. "This festival will integrate our skills, celebrating artistry alongside agriculture, allowing us to breathe life back into our community." Cheers erupted from the villagers, and hours slipped by as they worked together, brainstorming themes and activities for the festival. Kofi felt warmth in his chest, the rhythm of hope pulsing beneath the chatter as ideas were tossed around, a tapestry of possibilities forming between them. However, amid the planning, Kofi couldn't shake the thought of Amina's words. Dance with the shadows. What could that truly mean? He needed to better understand the balance between light and dark, between courage and fear. Later that day, while the villagers were busy preparing for the festival, Kofi found a quiet moment to reflect beneath the towering baobab tree. He closed his eyes, seeking clarity, allowing the sounds of joyous laughter to blend into the background. Dancing with shadows, he murmured, testing the phrase on his tongue. How does one do that without falling into despair? The tree stood tall, a sentinel of wisdom throughout the generations. Remembering the stories Mzee Ndungu had told about the baobab, Kofi tapped into his lineage, thinking of the ancestors who had endured trials and tribulations, who had faced fears yet emerged empowered. You only find strength by embracing the truth, he whispered, drawing deep breaths. Perhaps confronting our shadows means understanding what lies within, illuminating the darkest corners to dispel the fear. Those thoughts led him to conclusions about himself and his role in the community. Embracing the shadows wouldn't mean they were vulnerable, it would mean they were acknowledging their humanity. Just then, Nia approached him, concern etched across her features. You've been quiet. Are you ready for the festival? I'm excited but apprehensive, Kofi admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I just can't shake the feeling that beneath the joy, unseen challenges lurk. Naturally, Nia replied, kindness radiating from her tone. But do you know what's beautiful? We've already faced so much together, and we emerged stronger. Let's focus on the positivity we've fostered. Kofi smiled at her encouragement. You're right. We can't predict what shadows might come, but we can stand united. That strength means everything. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the village, the day of the festival arrived. Excitement bubbled through the air like a pot ready to boil over. Colorful banners adorned every corner, and laughter resonated as villagers mingled, reinforcing connections. It began with storytelling, a shared tradition that imbued hope within their hearts. Mzee Ndungu took center stage and greeted everyone, sharing tales from their ancestors about dreams and resilience. Kofi watched as the villagers leaned in, individuals weaving together their narratives to embody the spirit of unity. As the festival proceeded, booths sprung to life. Farmers presented displays of their harvests, artisans showcased their crafts, and children danced freely, embodying the joy that filled their souls. Laughter melded with the sounds of drums and flutes, creating an intoxicating symphony of celebration. Amidst the festivities, Kofi noticed a shift in the atmosphere, an energy lingering in the background. Shadows crept at the edges of laughter, swirling like wisps of smoke, reminding him of Amina's warnings. They were not entirely gone, they were merely hushed, lying in wait for an opening. As he navigated through the celebration, he came across a group of villagers gathered near the edge of the festivities. Their laughter faded as Kofi approached, sensing a change in the air. What's going on? He asked, concern creeping in. Juma shook his head, concern flickering in his eyes. We've heard whispers. Rumors that challenges may be arising soon. There are those in the shadows who wish to see our festival fail. Kofi's heart sank, apprehension crawling back into his veins. The shadows from the misty night were creeping in, testing their resolve on the very day they had sought to embrace joy. What do we do? Nia asked, her voice laced with determination. We won't let fear reign on our festival. We face it head-on, Kofi replied, steeliness lining his voice. Everything we've been building leads us to this moment. We confront TAD, those shadows trying to sow discord. Mzee Ndungu joined them, nodding in agreement. We stand united. Fear cannot breed when trust fills the spaces between us. With that, Kofi felt the resolve solidify within him. They would not see their efforts crumble into doubt. Instead, they would hold their heads high and confront whatever lay ahead. As the festival resumed, laughter erupted once more, woven through the backdrop of the village. In that laughter lay strength, a promise that as long as they faced the challenges together, they would dance with both light and shadow, embracing all that life had to offer. With determination resonating within their hearts and the rhythm of the festival pulsing around them, Kofi led the villagers toward the horizon of possibilities, where trust and courage met in a tapestry woven by the heart of the matter. They had faced the shadows, and now they would embrace whatever challenges awaited them, ready to shine their light into the unknown. The Final Confrontation. The vibrant sounds of the festival echoed through Nyahuru, alive with music, laughter, and the heartbeat of resilience. Yet, despite the joy surrounding him, Kofi remained acutely aware of the shadows lurking just beyond the dancing flames of their celebration. Whispers from the villagers had suggested an impending confrontation, a dark cloud hovering on the horizon, waiting to engulf the joy of the festival. Determined to face the unseen threat, Kofi gathered Nia, Juma, and Mzine Dungu at the edge of the festivities. "We can't allow fear to dominate our festival," Kofi insisted, his voice steadier than he felt. "We need to confront these whispers together." Nia nodded, her expression resolute. "If we work together, we can dispel whatever shadows threaten our dreams." Mzine Dungu raised an eyebrow, glancing toward the jubilant crowd. "But we must tread carefully. Shadows often arise from within, as well as from outside." Juma clenched his fists, determination etched into his features. "Then let's confront whatever it is. We've faced our fears before. We won't let them dim our light." As they spoke, an unease crept into Kofi's heart. The enthusiasm of the festival danced around them as if on borrowed time. He could sense the wind shifting, an undercurrent of discontent vibrating through the joyous laughter, yet he focused his energy on the task before them. Suddenly, as they turned to join the festivities, a dark figure stepped from the edge of the square, a hooded silhouette that drew an uneasy hush across the crowd. It was unclear at first whether this was the materialization of their fears or a mere figment of their imagination. "Who dares disrupt our celebration?" Kofi called out, adventurous courage flooding his veins as he confronted the figure. "Come forth and face us." The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face. It was a disaffected villager from a neighboring community, Tanaka, a once shining light now shrouded in bitterness. "You think your joy makes you immune to the shadows? You celebrate while the rest of us languish in despair." He spat, his voice dripping with resentment. A ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Kofi sensed the tension thickening. Tanaka's presence had cast a pall on their festival. He stepped forward, anger igniting within him, but tempered by understanding. "Your bitterness blinds you, Tanaka. We've all faced hardships, but what we seek is unity, togetherness of communities. To thrive together." "Unity!" Tanaka erupted, his voice shaking with emotion. "You speak of unity while you ignore the suffering of so many. You think joy can fix everything, but it simply ignores the truth." Kofi felt murmurings of agreement stir among certain villagers near Tanaka. Their eyes glinted with uncertainty, igniting Kofi's concern. This was a turning point. Could their festival withstand this confrontation? Juma stepped forward, standing tall against Tanaka's bitterness. "Joy doesn't erase our pain, it simply offers hope. We choose to remember our struggles but also to celebrate our resilience. You can join us instead of tearing us down." Nia echoed Juma's sentiments, stepping beside him. "The truth lies in our shared experiences, not in division. We welcome all those who seek to grow. Your anger only breeds more shadows." Kofi felt the energy of the villagers shifting as they engaged in this conversation. Tanaka's face contorted with frustration. The shadows he cast weighed heavily over the crowd. But Kofi refused to let despair take hold. "Let us learn from one another. Instead of allowing resentments to divide us, we can support each other's growth." "Do you believe change will come easily?" Tanaka challenged, shaking his head. "The shadows will always return. You are blind to the truth that surrounds you." Kofi didn't flinch, calling upon the strength he'd forged through shared struggles. "Perhaps it's not about being blind, but learning to dance with the shadows. Together, we can illuminate even the darkest corners." "You are welcome to join us." Recognizing the pull of Tanaka's resentment, Kofi began to see this as an opportunity for connection while navigating the difficult chamber of unresolved issues. The crowd remained tense, eyes darting between Tanaka and Kofi's coalition. They needed clarity, honesty, and a vision of unity. "How do you expect us to believe in joy when darkness pulls at our feet?" Tanaka spat, his voice trembling with anger. "Every time you reach for the light, shadows will snuff it out." Kofi spoke from the heart, commitment ringing strong in his tone. "But we can find strength together. You might harbor shadows, and so do we, yet it's in our union that we can diffuse the darkness. If we fall, it's together. If we rise, we do so as a united force. Recognition flickered in Tanaka's eyes, perhaps understanding, perhaps a yearning for possibility. Kofi could see the internal struggle reflected in the crowd around them, some captivated by the allure of shadows, others swayed by the vibrant energy of hope. As the silence stretched, Kofi seized the moment. Join us. Share your fears, your dreams. If we stand divided, we leave ourselves vulnerable to whatever shadows await. Together, we can illuminate the way forward. For a heartbeat, the air felt electric, and Tanaka hesitated, uncertainty etched on his features. Even if I join, how can I believe that the shadows won't come again? Kofi felt a soft light building within him. Because we'll face them together. Dreams are not just a retreat from reality, they are seeds. Every time we nurture them, we fortify our roots against the storm. With those words, he stepped back, allowing the villagers to respond. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mixture of hope and resonance with Kofi's proposition. Shifts occurred in the energy surrounding Tanaka, as if his bitterness hung like dew about to evaporate in the sun. Will you join us, Tanaka? Your strength could transform our community. Your experience could guide us in times to come, Kofi declared, heart racing as he awaited Tanaka's response. The tension hung in the air, the festival pulsing with the heartbeat of possibility. Then, with a slow exhale, Tanaka lowered his hood, revealing tear-filled eyes. I've lost my way, he uttered, voice trembling. Perhaps it's time to seek the light. With that, the villagers surged forward, gathering around him in a show of solidarity. Kofi felt the shadows recede, giving way to a renewed sense of warmth and understanding. They had faced their fears together, confronting the darkness and allowing the possibility of healing. As the festival resumed, laughter and music mingled once again with the air, weaving a tapestry of unity among villagers old and new. Kofi looked around, heart swelling. Together, they had navigated the delicate dance of light and shadow, forging connections stronger than before. With hope shimmering in the twilight, Kofi understood that every festival would come with its shadows, but their unity would illuminate the path ahead. The balance of light and dark was part of their journey, but now, empowered by love, truth, and resilience, they were ready to embrace it all. The heart of Nyahuru beat strong, joy and sorrow intertwined, and with it, they would embrace whatever awaited them beyond the horizon, united as one.